Hi, Julia Watts here. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and as you can see from the title, we're going to be doing a background, and this one was taught to me many years ago by my good friend Sue Wilson, and she called it the Faux Batik Background, and I've not done it for quite a long time, so I thought we'd pop a little video on here on how to do it. Right, so I've actually got, this is actually coconut white card from Creative Expressions, because I've just found a load of it, and it's what we always used to use. You can use any kind of smooth stamping card if you like. The coconut white is actually like an off-white card, it's not a pure white, but you could use something like the Pink Frog stamping card, which would be lovely to use. And for this background, we're going to be using the Notebook Botanicals Wonderful Wings, which is available on my website. I think I've got one left. If you're quick, you might get it. We're going to use a few of the butterflies. You could use just dragonflies, just the bees if you wanted to, or a mix. But I'm going to be doing some of the butterflies, and I'm going to be going for the more solid ones rather than the ones with the fine lines. So first of all, what we need to do is actually dust with an anti-static bag. This is just a piece of copy paper, and this is the Sentimentally Yours anti-static bag, which I have always got in stock. They do last a long time, and it's definitely worth having. We will be using the Sentimentally Yours crystal clear embossing powder, which it's a super fine one, and that has got anti-static properties in it and also in the pot, but it's just a good habit to be into anti-static first as well. So let's grab our butterflies. Let's go for, I think we'll go for the smaller pairings actually. And I'm going to use my acrylic circle. As you can see, my stamps are quite dirty, so this might not be as perfect as I'd like it. And also my Versamark, right, sorry, is not that clean either, because when you've got a dirty stamp, it dirties your Versamark. I've got a bit of something or other on my stamp there and there. I think it's a bit of kitchen roll where I've made an attempt at cleaning. What I'm going to do, because I'm actually going to stamp freehand rather than using my platform, I'm just going to stamp off onto a piece of copy paper, so that way I know that you can just about see it on there. That way I know I'm getting a good inking straight away. I'm kind of lubricating it before my first impression, if you like. So we're going to stamp a few, add some powder, and then stamp a few more. You can work with Versamark. You can use it a few times and then add your powder. See, there's a dirty image there. That's not good. It'll be alright. It's a background. At least I can see where I've gone. So the idea is that you stamp randomly. Excuse my squeaky desk. Like so. I'm not going to be able to get the other ones in if I'm not careful. So we'll add that for now, and then we'll add some embossing powder so we can see where we've been. Although I can see where we've been, what I don't want to happen is for the ink to dry. So we're going to pop some of this on and then do some more stamping. Do make sure that you could do this in white, but really you want to do it in clear because of getting that faux batik look. That's covered now. I don't know why I didn't clean my stamp. That's just me. Anybody that follows me knows that I don't clean my stamps and then I regret it. This is a very full pot of embossing powder. hence the reason I've just missed. Okay, so I'm going to just do a little bit more stamping of the same image, and then we'll come back and we'll do a different design. Okay, so I've got all my embossing powder on now. You can see my image because I've got dirty stamps. So what I've decided to do, rather than going with different butterflies, which would just fill up the area completely with butterflies, I thought we'd bring in some different stamps. So I'm going to go for the Notebook Botanicals Postmark Paraphernalia and add some of the solid stamps from this as well, which will probably also be black. So it's not do as I do, it's do as I say. So let's have a look what we might want to add in from here. It's always decisions really. I do want the solid ones. I do quite like this one with the numbers on it. So let's have some of these. Again with the Versamark. This is quite clean actually. I'm sure it won't be when I'm going to stamp it. Again, I've got these in stock on my website, so I'm just again making sure I'm nice and inky. This knows which way this is going to go. Probably upside down. Let's not think about it too much, because I will probably make a mess of it anyway. So just add in some more tickets. And this is an A5 piece of card, so I'll probably pop a frame around it, maybe even put a sentiment on a flag or a banner, and that would be it, so that I can actually see my background. Because when you've spent time making a background, it's a shame if you can't see it. So go off the page as well. Don't actually keep it all on the page. I think that'll do for that one. So let's get the embossing powder on for that. And if you do end up getting inky fingers on it, not your say inky fingers, because it's a clear ink, you can just brush it off, or it does actually add to it. This honestly, this powder is so full, it's coming out in globs. Tap that. Put some extra powder on there. Flick. Okay, so it's building up nicely. We can see it because of my dirty stamps. Let's just pop this away. Again, it is kind of one of these kind of quite therapeutic backgrounds to do. I find it very relaxing because you can just make a batch of these. If you're not sure what you want to do, just make a batch of backgrounds. And shall we put a postmark on there as well? Let's see. I do want solids. I do like the finger, that finger pointing there, but I'm not sure whether I want to have this on this one. Make your mind up, Julia. Let's go for a post. I can't do a big postmark. Let's go for this Paris one. Or we could do a stamp. Oh, decisions. I know, let's go for this one. This kind of wavy line. Franking mark, isn't it? That's what it is. And then we'll call it a day at this. So let's do what we've been doing. Let's make sure we're nice and inked. Sometimes the first time you ink a stamp after a while, you don't get a good inking, which is why I've been doing it off of the page. mean, you could do this in a coloured ink, but it's not the actual idea of Faux Batik. I think they used to use, or they do use wax, and then they use the dyes, and the wax resists it. So that's the whole idea, that this is this clear embossing powder and clear ink is like the wax. You know, I don't know if we need to do any more. Let's just go off the page with that one, and we'll perhaps go off the page at the top as well. Not that we'll necessarily use the top. Okay, you can always add more afterwards. Let's move the stamps out of the way. I'm just putting embossing powder to this last bit. That's probably the cleanest stamp of the lot. Good. Actually, I mean, it might be nice to have some of those wavy lines in the middle there, but there isn't an awful lot of space, and that would be probably, if I was going to put a topper on there, that might be where I put my topper. So I'm not going to stress too much about that. Just some extra lines. Okay, let's call that a day. Right, so next thing to do is to heat set that, and I'll do it in front of you so you can see what it looks like as we go. Warm up your heat tool before you take it to your project. Always do that because it makes things quicker anyway. And then just chase the ink as it melts, or the embossing powder as it melts. Don't overcook it, because the technique won't work if you overcook it. And you'll find as the heat gun warms up, it all goes a lot quicker. I do apologise for having dirty butterfly stamp. It's not going to look as good, but you'll get the whole idea. And you learn from your mistakes. Well, you're supposed to, aren't you? But, you know, I never seem to clean my stamps. Black out there, which is a bit annoying. Any kind of imperfections in your background, you can actually just decide that that's where your topper's going to be, or that's where a frame is going to go over the topper. So it's all usable. If you approach your embossing in a methodical manner, so don't do this, so if you just follow it around one design to the next, then you know what you've heat set, and you know it's all cooked. That's all nice and shiny. See it reflecting off. See, it's nice as a background as it is. Now, what you could do if you wanted to, you could take things like your inks and you can kind of rub them over your mat. And in fact, I've got bits on my mat. Let me just clean my mat while I'm talking to you. So yeah, you could put some ink on your mat and then pick that up. And that ink is that embossing powder is a resist. But we're going to do something slightly differently. I mean, you can absolutely do that. What we're going to do is we're going to actually do some folds. So we're just going to fold our card, some good old zigzag kind of folds, random folds. So at the moment I'm taking the image and folding this way, as you can see. And then you want to do some the other way as well. So with the image face up as opposed to the image underneath, and get some folds going the other way. Obviously the more folds you do, the more cracks you're going to do, because you're actually making cracks now in your embossing. And what is going to happen is that the embossing, the inks that we're going to apply are going to go into the cracks, and it's going to give you a different effect. We've got enough going on there. So the next thing to do is to take some inks, and we're just going to rub some. This is Lumberjack Plaid, which is one of the new distress inks. We're going to just rub it over the top. This is quite a dark one. Should have gone light first, really. And then we're going to have a bit of picked raspberry, which is a pink, obviously. And then we're going to have a little bit of spiced marmalade, which is the one I should have done first. I'm just getting a little bit carried away and excited about what we're doing here. So you can already see we've got a bit of resist going on. Looks a bit of a mess at the moment, but don't worry about it. And then we're going to take a mister bottle, and we're going to get that ink moving around. And then what you need to do is you need to leave that to dry. And you can see that, I mean, the ink's moving around a little bit because it's wet, but you've got resist going on. You can definitely see it within that butterfly there. And to be honest, even though I had a dirty ink pad, now it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to now leave that to dry, and then we'll come back and look at it, and we can decide to add more ink. We can move the ink around a little bit more because it's distress ink, and that's what happens with it. So we'll leave that to dry, and I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like when the ink's dry. Okay, so my background is all nice and dry now. You can see we've got lots of bright colours. Now, if you've got any gaps that you're not very happy about, you can easily just swipe your ink pad on again and blast it with some more water, and again put it aside to dry. But one thing you need to do is, it's a good idea just to buff up your background, because the ink is sitting on your embossing powder, it won't dry there. So it's a good idea just to go over your background just with a piece of kitchen roll. You can see it's getting a little bit off there, because otherwise it's just going to transfer to your fingers and to your project, and you don't really want that. I mean, I've got a bit of a gap there. I don't mind my gaps actually, but if you don't like it, or if you don't like the way that the colours are sitting, or if you think, oh, that's too orange there, or a bit more red, or you know, a bit more orange there, whatever, you can, like I say, just take your distress ink, and it will still move around because it is distress ink. It is activated with water, so you can actually reactivate it. But what the Faux Batik gives you is, you can see just here where we've got a crease, you've got a bit more intensity of colour of the ink there, and it kind of sits in the embossing powder that's been split, and so that kind of gives you a different finish. Like I said at the beginning, if you don't want to fold this and you just want to use it as a resist, you can absolutely do that, and you can just add your inks on top in the same way as I did, but without the folding beforehand. But because we wanted the batik effect, that's why we've done that. So obviously, to use this, I mean, I'm not going to go ahead and make a card, but I've got some die cuts here that you could just pop, just to give you an idea of what it would look like. So here I've got one of the double deboss octagons from Sentimentally Yours as a frame, so you can see there. Obviously you can just chop it down, matte and layer it, and then you can pop a sentiment in there, or you could bring in another different shape frame. Here, this is a Tutor Designs oval, and so you can actually see that, you know, you can put a sentiment in there, perhaps put some flowers on. You've got a few little bits of your background that's left here, so you can actually do some layers of your flowers to coordinate if you want to. Obviously you can just make a second sheet or do a whole A4 sheet, and then you've got lots to play with. If you don't like octagons, you can go for a square. This is quite a large double debossed essential square here. We could bring in I don't know, this is a rounded corner square, so we could bring one of those in and give yourself a different look there. Obviously forget that that's there, and that kind of sets it off. So remember, it's a background, and it's going to just give you that lift, that spot of colour to, you know, in your background. And so don't, like I say, don't worry if your stamping's not perfect, because at the end of the day it's a background. Now if you're not happy about hiding all of that, you can take a smaller size of the square and actually gut that, and then use that as a flower if you wanted to. So there's not necessarily any, you don't have to waste any of your beautiful background. So I hope you've enjoyed that. So that's a new background technique, probably to a lot of you, called Faux Batik, courtesy of the lovely Sue Wilson. And obviously whatever colours you'd use in the background, it's going to look totally different. Some of the fairy hug stamps are going to look wonderful in this, because they're very silhouette, and the more of a constant solid stamp that you've got, the more splits you're going to get when you do your folding, and so the more the ink is going to sit into the solid area of your stamped images, and it's going to give you that faux batik. So anyway, do check out my other videos that are on my YouTube channel, and give me a like and a comment, and if you're not already subscribing, it'd be wonderful if you did. And you can find the products that I've used over at juliawattscrafts.co.uk. Thanks for watching.